Welcome back to Mik'd Up. There we go. We're bumps and bruises. We're going to get through it. It's okay.
Absolutely.
It's all part of it. Welcome back to Mik'd Up. We are excited to be joined by our next guest, Matthew Brune. Matthew, this is our first video call in the new studio. It's going to go very smooth. It's going to have no issues. We appreciate you coming on. Matthew covers LSU football for On3. Thanks for coming on the show, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Hope everything's good.
You sound glorious.
I sound okay?
Oh, you sound great.
All right.
You look great.
All right. Lighting good, everything like that. All right.
Yeah.
I'm good. I'm great. I'm a little sunburnt. You can probably tell that difference right there. Yeah,
you're out there. It's hot. It's hot out there.
No, that's from the jersey getting grabbed, Coach. That's you're in that.
Listen,
that struggle.
We talked about at the start of the show, right? When the hotter it gets, the more tempers flare up, the more agitated people get. Obviously there is a fight that broke out between Malik Neighbors, Kyron Lacy, and Denver Harris and
Harold Perkins,
right? So they all get kicked out of practice. Things happen. What happened? Give us the play-by-play because it was open to the media at this time of practice, correct?
Yes, it was. It was really an interesting sight because earlier in practice we watched Charles Turner and Mason Smith actually get into it when we were inside at the indoor. So it was okay. There's already something that they needed to be separated. Which was an interesting, occurrence because usually that doesn't happen. We've been to a handful of practices over the last couple of years. Last year, it wasn't nearly as open as this year's was, but still, it doesn't happen very often. So I thought that was noteworthy. Then we get outside and they go through 11-on-11s, and all of a sudden, I see Malik Neighbors jump up and grab kind of him and Harold Perkins start grabbing each other, and I was like, what's kind of happening here? I thought it was going to de-escalate, and then that's when Kyron Lacy and Denver Harris kind of jumped into the mix and kind of started exchanging some blows back and forth, pushing, punching, all that stuff. Then the whole scrum closed in, and that's where obviously you get to where you don't want anyone to get like injured, like rolled up on or anything like that. That's where the concern really happens. One guy fighting another guy, two guys fighting another guy, that's not the end of the world if it's safe, as long as they're not hitting each other with their helmets. But yeah, that's kind of what happened. And then kind of Denver Harris comes out of there with his helmet off, it's yelling at everybody. Malik Neighbors and Kyron Lacy get dragged away. It was a very Harold Perkins also kind of got dragged away, but they kind of left him on the field, and then he kind of got mad again, and then Brian Kelly had to talk to him, pulled him to the side, and he didn't participate in the rest of camp. But yeah, that's pretty much how it went down.
Did it look like this was something that was brewing at practice, or is this something that's been stewing for the last few days? You know what I mean? Like, was it something that they just got competitive, or like they've been going against each other for the last few weeks, and it just kind of got heated?
Yeah, I don't think we'd seen two practices. We weren't privy to the Saturday practice, but it felt like it was good competition the day one, first day. But then again, first day you're trying to feel things out. Day two, we only got to see like the first half of practice. We didn't get to see the second half. But still, we had heard, and I think Mason Taylor kind of mentioned today after practice, it was like we've had flare-ups this camp, which we didn't have last year as much. So yeah, this very much could have been a multiple day type thing. Be like, I'm tired of him, and then you get outside and it's 100 degrees and you feel awful, and then Harold Perkins maybe just comes in and says something, and Malik Neighbors took it, or vice versa, because Malik Neighbors has been very much known to talk, and so it's nothing at all that he's. But I could definitely see it flaring up today in the heat. One slight comment and off to the races.
Yeah, so. Everyone loves to hear a good little fight story and kind of what happened, but we want, kind of get to the meat and potatoes of this thing. Give us the tea, the scoop, the lowdown. How is that quarterback room looking, and how are things kind of progressing right now from that side of it?
Yeah, the cornerback room?
No, the
specifically?
quarterback room.
QBs.
Quarterback room.
Yes.
Okay, yeah, QBs. Jane Daniels and Garrett Nussmeier, obviously, I've been really high. Well, I've been high on Nussmeier since I first saw him 2 years ago, and I saw him throwing next to Max Johnson and Miles Brune, and I was like, the ball just kind of comes out of his hands differently. His arm talent, as we've seen, obviously, with the Georgia game, the Purdue game, I think in the spring game, he just shows it every time he's on the field now. So his arm talent is elite. Jaden Daniels is going to be the starter this year, though. He is far more experienced. I think almost 50 games as a starter now compared to Nussmeier. Obviously, the mobility is a huge factor. It's the reason why they won as many games as they did last year. And ultimately, Jaden Daniels has improved as a passer. I think I've seen that. I think the whole media has seen that over summer, even over spring, but over summer and then into fall. Now we've seen a handful of practices. And so I think his touch has improved. I think he's being more aggressive vertically. He'll never be as aggressive as Garrett Nussmeier is just because
I don't know if anybody is that aggressive.
Yeah.
Special talent.
Yeah, Joe
Down
Milton,
there somewhere.
yeah. Yeah, exactly. So I think that they're going to be
What'd you say?
fine with Jane Daniels at the starter and Nussmeier backing them up.
There's been a lot of reports. Like, obviously, the recruiting class comes in. It was Brian Kelly's first recruiting class. It was a talented class. It was guys that you expected some of these guys to play early on. There's been a lot of talk about the youth shining here early in camp. I know it's only through 4 days. The media hasn't seen every single practice. But what have you seen from the young guys, right? Obviously, specifically in the secondary, because that's the one, I think, the biggest question mark that we have. The safeties, I don't think there's any more years of experience in the college football than we have in our safety room, because you have, Greg Brooks, and you have Major Burns, and you have Andre Sam, who I feel like have 50 years of experience.
Grown men back there.
Yeah. And then, but your cornerbacks, like the outside position, you have some veteran transfers from smaller schools, but you also have Denver Harris who transferred in, Toviano who transferred in. Have you seen these young guys like kind of embrace it, take the next step? What do you see from that position group?
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting because, like you said, Denver Harris only spent 1 year at A&M. Terrence Welsh, who a lot of people, I particularly was also high on coming out of spring and last year as a freshman, I thought he could show some flashes. Then you go to a guy like Javian Toviano, who it's kind of moved around a little between nickel, corner, safety, all that stuff. Then you get those guys like Zay Alexander, who transferred in from the FCS ranks of Southeastern, and Deuce Chestnut as well from Syracuse. So, yeah, you have a mixture in the secondary. Obviously, like y'all kind of mentioned, that's this position where we really just don't know right now who the starter is going to be or who even is in the lead right now. I would probably, through a practice, might pencil in out there. Now, guys made all if Denver Harris jumped in, if Terrence Wells jumped in, if Deuce Chestnut. So, yeah, practice is wide open. But the secondary, like y'all said, I think the safeties are in good spots with their depth and their experience. Nichols fine with Sage Ryan and Javian Toviano and Jordan Allen, guys like that.
Is Sage Ryan going to take the next step this year? Is he going to be the guy that finally to live up to the hype coming in? Obviously, I know it's harder. I'm not going to say he's been a bust because that's not by any means what I'm saying. But I think that people expected him to be, as a 5-star, be a guy that comes in and is a star.
Yeah, that's very fair. I think this is a make or break year for him to a degree. If he can't get on the field, you look at it the last 2 years, right? When he was a freshman, they had Cordell Flott in the slot, NFL draft pick. He's doing great with the Giants. Last year, Jay Ward drops down. Greg Brooks and Jay Ward kind of filled that spot, mostly Jay Ward. He gets drafted to the NFL. Now it's Sage Ryan right here. I was wondering if one of these transfers would move to nickel. They haven't yet, so we're looking at really just Sage Ryan, Jordan Allen, Javian Toviano, maybe if Greg Brooks drops down in some packages, but there is a pathway for Sage Ryan to be the man at nickel. And if he can't lock that down, I will be a little disappointed. And I think, like you said, this guy was a 5-star coming out of Lafayette for a reason. That he is an awesome athlete. He just kind of gets caught in between sometimes. He can be that tweener guy where he's not quite big enough to be a thumper and not quite quick enough to really hold up in all coverage situations. But I do expect him to be a starting nickel.
So a name that's drawing a lot of buzz. I think this room right here, this group of people here, have a lot of interest in how things are going to go for him. I know it's early. I know you guys aren't getting to see the bulk of practice right now, but what is the involvement and how is a guy like Aaron Anderson being used right now on the offensive side?
Yeah. Whenever all the transfers wrapped up, I had Aaron Anderson as my second favorite transfer. I think Aaron Anderson is awesome. I think he showed at the car in New Orleans out of high school that he was a top 40 player in the country, punt returner, wide receiver, slot guy, 5'9", 5'10", incredibly quick. I covered a guy like that when I was at North Texas, Jalen Darden, who went in the 4th round of the NFL draft. And you just see guys like that, and you're like, you find a way to get them the ball. That's the big thing. And I think that they're figuring that out. His hands are high quality. I think in route running, you see him in one-on-ones, and there's nobody that can guard him. He's just too quick. You have to get your hands on him, on guys like that. So I expect them to use Aaron Anderson in the slot, which they have done already. I'm interested to see in screen situations, bubble screens, maybe drag screens, just different type of plays to get him the ball in the open field, because he is really, really electric. And I pencil him in to be the starting punt returner as well. I just want him to have the ball in his hands, really.
A guy who I don't think anybody has question marks about his talent and his ability to play on the field, but I think people want to see him take the next step as far as being on the field every down and being able to take that next step as a linebacker, and that's Harold Perkins. Obviously, the talent is off the charts. His year last year was off the charts. Now they're going to ask him to do more at that linebacker position, be the leader, be the guy in that position, in that group, to say, okay, I'm the best player on this defense. I'm going to show you that I'm the best player on this defense. And the way to do that is to be able to understand the defense and be able to be on the field every single down. Have you seen that adjustment? Have you seen that evolvement of him through the course of this
evolution
camp? Evolution. That's what I was looking for. Thank you.
Yeah, that's a good word too. I think the big thing with Matt House has been, we know you can rush the passer at an elite level. Like you said, like, he is the best player on this defense, bar none. He's one of the best players in the country defensively. We know you can rush the passer. He has spent the entire offseason trying to get him to be able to play on first and second down as an inside linebacker, because we know on third downs we can put you wherever on the field and you can rush the passer. But on first and second downs, if you can make that run stop in the gap, if you can drop back in coverage sometimes and make a play, or if you can obviously spy the quarterback from different spots, like, there's just different scenarios in which I think Matt House really wants to use him, and that's what we've seen. We haven't seen a ton of him off the edge this fall, this spring. Really, we heard in the spring that John Jancic was using him on third downs as the outside linebackers coach, kind of at that jack spot. So that's kind of what I expect going into the year. First and second downs, he's going to be inside next to Omar Speights, who I love Omar Speights. I think he's really good. But after that, if it's 3rd and 8, 3rd and 9, 3rd and 7 even, probably, I'm expecting him to be at jack, outside linebacker, pass rushing position, opposite of either Savion Jones, Deshaun Womack, so on and so forth, Quincy Wiggins, put a name in there. But yeah, that's kind of what I expect from Harold Perkins. But it has been all inside linebacker from what we've seen so far.
Oh, speaking of Harold Perkins, when you say inside linebacker, who would be coming off the field? And is that taking away something that he just does extraordinarily well? Is that too much of a stretch to put him? I mean, obviously you don't want to see him come off the field, but he kind of loses his ace card a little bit whenever you see him out there on third down. You know what he's going to do. I know you want to see him play more. Why not just keep him in that same position? I mean, you talk about evolution, but I see him more as like a Von Miller coming off the edge, where he's going to do it every time, and it's almost impossible to stop.
No, that's a very fair question, because that was me early in spring camp when I first heard about this, moving him inside and everything. I thought it was an experiment that they wouldn't stick with, really, because he is so talented as a pass rusher. The way that Brian Kelly and Matt House answered the question of keeping him aggressive and keeping him on the front foot is that they want to blitz him from the inside. They want to blitz him from the outside. They want to blitz him from different positions, because if he just lines up as an outside linebacker, as an edge guy, they can double team him. They can, chip him. They can put tight end on his side. So that's how they justified it. And that makes more than enough sense to me to try him out. And then you pair that with the fact that he can be used on first and second downs. And probably if he, once he goes to the NFL, he's not quite big enough, to really be a 3-down, I don't think, pass rusher at that level.
Right.
Ideally, I think you'd like him to move inside to where he can be more versatile for defenses, and I think that that's where they're doing it. Matt House obviously comes from the NFL. He comes from the Chiefs, where he was a linebackers coach, so I think he knows what's best for him. Now it's going to be interesting to see how that pans out, because my concern is this can't have road bumps. You start week 1 with Florida State, and you have to be ready from that game forward, and you have to bother Jordan Travis.
I want to go to the offensive side of the ball for a minute. I got a little distracted with the frat boys.
Yeah, we haven't even talked offense yet.
I know. We talked a little quarterbacks, but
quarterback.
The running back room has 8 guys on scholarship, right? Like,
if you have 8, you have none.
Okay, shut up. Okay, that's not the case. But you have 8 guys on scholarship. A lot of these guys have had a lot of success in college football. You obviously bring Josh Williams back, who was vital to the team last year. You have Noah Kane, who had a ton of touchdowns. He has a lot of experience. You bring back Trey Bradford, who came back to LSU for the 15th time. You have all these guys that have talented. You bring in transfer from Notre Dame, John Blank.
Diggs.
You bring in Diggs from Notre Dame. Yeah, Logan Diggs. You bring in all these guys, and you have 2 freshmen that come in. What does the running back room look like? Who's going to get the first crack at it? Is it going to be a running back by committee? And you can't have 8 guys in the committee. That's just too many. What are you seeing from that room?
Running back cabinet.
It is a interesting position to be in. I don't know if Frank Wilson's ever been in this position. Brian Kelly was like, yeah, we're having to mirror drills in order to get everybody the adequate amount of carries and an adequate amount of reps. And 8 feels like too much. It feels unnecessary, but especially with the addition of Logan Diggs. And so they already had 6 or 7 there. You add Logan Diggs. In my opinion, Logan Diggs has the highest ceiling for this season. He comes off a year where he rushed for 800 plus yards on a good Notre Dame team, obviously showed against some high quality competition what he's capable of. 3-down back. Like, if they just had him and Josh Williams and the 2 freshmen, I would think this room is fine. But they have those 2, the 2 freshmen, like you said, John Emery, Noah Kane, go down the list. Armani Goodwin coming off injury. I do think it will be by committee, almost because it has to be.
How many are in the committee?
If I had, yeah, it's a whole committee. I think Logan Diggs and Josh Williams are the best 2 backs, and I think that they will be the 2 featured backs. I think John Emery will be featured in situations like he was last year, where he was, caught passes out the backfield comfortably. Before he started fumbling the ball, he was pretty spry. So I think you have Josh Williams, Logan Diggs. The rest of them are kind of used when necessary in certain situations. Noah Kane led the team in touchdowns last year, so he's kind of a goal line back. Armani Goodwin's kind of a really quick, speedy bowling ball type. So they'll all have their roles, but I'm saying Josh Williams and Logan Diggs get probably combined 60-70% of the carries.
All right.
An answer.
That is a great answer. Out of all the young guys, right, and we've talked about it a little bit, who do you see making the quickest impact and the impact quickest?
Of all the freshmen?
Yeah, all the young guys like that that have come in, whether they're freshmen or it's freshman transfer or whatever.
Yeah, I got 3 freshmen off the top of my head. 2 of them are the highest rated from the last class, so it's not really fair. But Deshaun Womack on defense, 5-star, top 10, top 15 player in the country. I mean, he's going to get on the field the same way Harold Perkins got on the field. It's like it doesn't matter if you know exactly what you're doing, just go get the quarterback type. He's that good, and he's going to be that good. So Deshaun Womack on defense, he'll get on the field somehow. And then offensively, I do think Zaylen Hurd, who was also another top 20, 5-star player in this class, Zaylen Hurd at tackle, offensive tackle, I think he will push for playing time, even though obviously you have Will Campbell and Emory Jones as your starting tackles. I think Zaylen Hurd finds a way to get on the field. He's just too big.
Does that push Emory Jones to guard? Does that push Will Campbell to guard? I would imagine that would probably push Emory Jones to guard more than Will Campbell, right?
Or you could put
that would push Emory Jones to guard more than Will Campbell. And obviously, we don't know, knock on wood, but we don't know what injuries will happen
Right.
with offensive line. Offensive linemen miss games, more than almost any other position group. So if Miles Frazier misses a game, I could very well see Emory Jones move inside, Zalen's Hurd slide in a tackle. It's all very fluid, but I think Hurd gets in for he gets a lot of snaps this year. That much I'll say. And then third, I'll throw out Kamorian Pimpton,
Yes.
6'6"
I was
tight
hoping
end.
you'd say that.
That guy. I'm not gonna say I was skeptical at all because Billy Embody and Shay Dixon, who I work with, are awesome. Two of the best recruiting guys in the business. They vouched for him, and I watched his tape, and I was like, "Is he really just going to be able to just dunk on people in college? Is that how this is going to go?" And
Yes.
I think he's just going to be able to dunk on people
Yes.
in college. He's gotten stronger. That was my big concern. I'm not worried about him as a blocker as a freshman. He'll figure that out. But yeah, man, he just boxes people out and can go get the ball. So I'm like, all right, he's going to get like 5 touchdowns this year.
Oh, I love that. I love that prediction. I was talked about the tight end position a lot, right? Because obviously Brian Kelly loves that position. He loves having a 2 tight end set. I feel like both of the tight ends that he's going to have in Pimpton and Mason Taylor, right? Mason Taylor had a great freshman year.
Mac Markway is out there somewhere.
I know. Well,
Yeah,
I think those two guys are probably going to be like the most athletic, probably best pass catchers. I made a bold prediction. I don't want to say call it a prediction. I said I made a statement that I would not be shocked if this happened, and I said I would be shocked if a tight end had a 1,000-yard season for LSU for the first time in history, and then I kind of backed that down to I would not be shocked if you had an 800-yard receiving season from a tight end. Am I far off? Are they going to use the tight end a little bit more down the field over the middle, or is it going to be more of a safety net?
So in your prediction, you have Mason Taylor getting 800 yards receiving?
Yes.
Okay.
Let me rephrase it. Not a prediction. Not a prediction. It is a statement that I wouldn't be shocked if it happened. I don't want to say I'm predicting it.
Gosh.
Yeah.
Are you playing the fence now?
He
What
is.
is this? He's just like,
Wait,
if it happens,
Matt. This started at 1,000 yards, and now he's
I went down to
800.
I went down to 800 because 1,000's a lot. It's hard.
1,000 is a lot. Look, I have my own podcast too. I've done podcasts for a few years too. I understand how it goes. If you're right, you pull the clip. If not, you just let it go.
Let it die
in the distance.
It's an oblivion. I get it.
I've heard this before. Some people think Mason Taylor is going to have a huge monster year, and people have pointed to Michael Mayer from Notre Dame, who's put up monster numbers. Past when he was at under Brian Kelly. It's like, yes, Brian Kelly will use the tight ends. I don't think Michael Mayer has that type of season if he has Malik Neighbors and Brian Thomas on the outside. That's the hard part.
That was our concern.
I don't think if Jaden Daniels actually pushes the ball down the field as much as we hope and expect him to this year, not saying it's a Garrett Nussmeier level, but if it is just a step forward in that progression, I think that we'll see Malik Neighbors in once again with the 1,000 yards receiving, but then Brian Thomas, Kyron Lacey, Aaron Anderson, like those type of guys are all going to be in the 50 catch range. And I just don't know if there's enough for Mason Taylor to get to. If he's going to get to 800 yards, he'd have to get 70 or 60 receptions.
But let me
that's asking a lot.
Let me ask you this question though: if we can all sit here and say if we had to point at one part of Jaden Daniels' game that we don't think is the strongest, it would be the arm strength, right? It would be pushing the ball down the field outside the numbers. So why couldn't he push the ball down the field
over the middle of the field with a tight end who's bigger? 2 tight ends who's bigger and that can run. That's possible, right? Especially if you have really good skill guys on the outside. You started to see it towards the end of last year too. They're throwing like Mason Taylor's running routes deeper towards the middle of the field.
Yeah, he definitely was. I do attribute some of that last year to them really losing trust a little bit in Kayshawn and kind of the receiver room to a degree. And Mason Taylor was so good, but he was also so safe in what he was doing in terms of like we know what we're getting from Mason Taylor on a day in day out basis. You had Kyron Lacey dropping balls. You had it was a lot. The situation wasn't great at the receiver room last year outside of Malik Neighbors, and that's why Mason Taylor, give him full credit, stepped up. I'm interested to see, does his production go up significantly or does it drop? Because I feel like there's no in between. I don't think we're going to see the same Mason Taylor numbers we saw last year, because either Jaden Daniels is going to be looking receiver, or it's going to be similar to what it was last year. And Mason Taylor is better than he was last year. And I think he could potentially, get 600 plus yards off of yards after catch, because he is that kind of athlete. But then you throw in, I haven't even mentioned, guys like Jackson McGohan and, guys that can play the slot in ways that LSU really didn't have last year, contributing.
Yeah. Well, this would be interesting. I'm a huge fan of him. I think that he's done a lot of really good things as a freshman. Got put in tough situations and he excelled. I hope that my prediction is right, because it means the offense is doing really well.
Oh, so he's ratcheted it back up to a prediction now.
Yeah, I'm a prediction. Y'all bullied me.
Hey, look,
y'all bullied me into
I'll say
doing
this.
it.
The only reason I don't think it'll happen, if it doesn't happen, like the biggest reason I don't think it'll happen, is because of the time, the rule change in the time clock. These games won't be as drawn out anymore.
Not as many
with
plays.
The rolling clock and stuff like that. So I think stuff like that will play against that.
If he has, look, listen, I'm predicting the 800 plus, right? But if he has a 500-yard receiving season at tight end, that's a really good season for tight end.
Oh yeah, of course.
I mean, the record.
That's what I've maintained as well.
Yeah, like the highest tight ends, 500.
620.
No, you miss this up every time.
580.
Five something.
580.
Yeah, by Thaddeus
LSU?
Moss. Yeah, by Thaddeus Moss.
Okay.
So I don't know. It's gonna be interesting. Matthew, dude, I appreciate you coming on the show. I think this is your first time on our show, correct?
Yes. First time you popped our video cherry.
There we go. So your first video call in the new studio. Hopefully we get you back on here a lot during the course of football season. I'm excited for football season. It's nice to be able to have these conversations that are meaningful, not predictions in May and June of like, hey, what's going to happen? What are we going to see? So I appreciate you, dude. We'll have you back on, and enjoy the rest of your night.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Next time I come on, I'll probably be like even more sunburned.
Perfect.
So we'll see how that
walk
goes.
outside, take the shirt off, get a little tan some days. It's
You're
okay.
gonna match it up.
Yeah.
Do the
get
Coach
a
O.
nice little
Yeah,
base.
just take my shirt off.
Yeah.
Stand next to Brian Kelly, just put my shirt off.
Listen, as
Coach,
long
one
as you're
question
doing,
over
as long
here.
as you're doing your work, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter what you look like, as long as you put good work out. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Ed would have loved you.
Yeah.
Stand out, don't fit in, baby. Here we
That's
go.
it. All right, dude. Enjoy your night.
I
Appreciate you.
respect that. Thank y'all.
All right, man.